Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar, Writing a Tailored and Impactful Cover Letter. My name is John Holste, and I am one of your career advisors in the Career Planning and Fieldwork Term office. I'm joined today by Rebecca Nelson, who is also a career advisor in our office. Rebecca has extensive experience working with students on developing application materials, and today she will be sharing some helpful information related to developing an effective cover letter. As a reminder, today's workshop is being recorded and participants will be able to access the recording and any related resources following the presentation. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Rebecca.
Thanks, John. It's a pleasure to speak to you today about cover letter writing. So today I'm going to take you through the steps for writing a cover letter, and this includes understanding how employers look at cover letters and how you can prepare, format, and select content to create a quality cover letter. And that's our agenda for today. I think it's important before getting into the steps of writing a cover letter to start off by talking about why we write cover letters and what their purpose is. So a resume is the most frequently requested application document. So I want to look at the differences in the purpose that these two documents serve and how they complement each other. So a resume usually covers several years of work and then provides detailed descriptions of some of your experiences. The intention with a resume is to explicitly address each skill requested in the employer's job posting and then explain exactly how you've developed those skills. And so on the other hand, a cover letter is more of a summary of your main accomplishments. It should still address your top skills for the job, but it can also serve to show your interest in the company and some of your personality. And that helps the employer to get a rudimentary understanding of how you'd fit into the culture of the organization. So basically, the cover letter should entice the reader to want to know more about you and then to go to your resume and other application materials for all of that enriched detail. So before you even begin to write and put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, there are a couple of steps that I'd recommend. So keeping in mind that you write a cover letter with a specific job, internship, fieldwork term, or some kind of experience in mind, you need to know about both the position and the organization. So this research gives you a foundation for the part of the cover letter where you incorporate your explanation of why you've decided to apply to this position. It's also really helpful for when you interview. So it's applicable to other parts of the hiring process, honestly, to all of the other parts of the hiring process. So this is an exercise that you can do when you initially decide to apply to any job, and it'll be helpful throughout the process. So if you need to find information about an organization or about a job, these are a few tools that you can use to work on your research. So obviously the job posting or position description, if it's not a job, shares a ton of information about the actual responsibilities of the job, and it will list the employer's ideal candidate qualifications. So that will give you a lot of information. You can also find information on the organization's website, like they're going to have the mission statement, special programs that they offer, information about their products, services, their clients. So it really is going to share a lot of information. And then some employer websites have very robust careers or human resources pages that share great information about the hiring process and working for that organization. Some, not all, but some of them are very, very involved, and you can get a lot of great information there. You can also look at the employer's social media and LinkedIn to see how they engage with the public. Obviously, if you know someone working within the organization, it would be really helpful to reach out and ask them for some information about things like team dynamics, the day-to-day operations, key players within the organization, some of those things that you can't get from from just online research. So that can be very helpful as well to get one-on-one information from somebody inside the organization. But if you don't have someone that you know, there are websites where employees of different companies can share information about their hiring experience. and about what it's like working for that organization. So Glassdoor is an example where you can find all kinds of testimonials. And lastly, of course, you can use Google or library research databases to find articles about different companies or other kinds of records about organizations. So these are all some research tools that you can use to learn more before you start writing your cover letter. So after you've done your research, you're going to know so much about the organization, and now you need to figure out how to make your skills stand out in your cover letter. When employers are looking to hire a candidate, they're looking at two types of skills. Transferable skills, which are skills like communication or problem solving that can be applied in any setting. And then they're looking at job-specific skills, and this could be something like recording a financial transaction or creating a graphic design. And those types of skills are going to vary by the role. A professional association called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, or NACE, conducts a survey every year of employers, and they ask them what kind of attributes they'd like to see on a candidate's resume. And this year, problem solving, teamwork, and communication top that list. But you can see I've given you a top 10 here of some other attributes as well. So these are all transferable skills. These are examples of transferable skills that you could highlight in your cover letter. And if you've developed job-specific skills through work or class or activities, you'd want to include some of that information in your cover letter as well. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So your goal for every cover letter will be to customize the information that you include to show the employer how you have the skills needed to do that job. If you need a little help articulating those skills, you can look to a few different resources to get started. So first of all, Bennington's Capacities outlines several transferable skills that you've developed in classes or in fieldwork term. You can look back through your course syllabi to jog your memory about what you did in the past as well. You can ask the people in your life what they think you're good at. And then you could look at past jobs or jobs that interest you and brainstorm about the skills you have in that field. You could also, again, reach out to people in industries that interest you to learn about important skills for the field and then consider how you develop those skills too. And you can use the attributes from NACE that we just looked at and see if any of those can give you a source for your unique skills profile as well. And then lastly, there's a site called ONET. It has a skills search and an occupational task list. And those you can use to look at different skills that are listed there and see if those would be something that would be needed in your job of interest. And then you can brainstorm about which ones you believe are your top skills that you would want to include in your cover letter. So lots of resources here for figuring out what you want to highlight in that document. But one of the best ways to make sure that you're addressing those skills effectively in your cover letter is to use the job description for the position at hand. So I've included an example here of a position description for a media production intern. And I'm going to filter through the posting and look for the key skills in it. I'm not going to worry about things that are too particular to any one role or industry. I'm just looking for the skill sets. So you can mark or highlight those position descriptions that interest you to help you better see the main skills requested. So you can see in this example that I've marked skills for post-production and developing ideas for content. So those are going to be the basis of what you include in cover letter, resume, and what you focus on as far as what you want to talk about in an interview. So apply this to the different types of roles that you would be interested in. Just kind of go through and highlight the different skills that pop out to you in the position descriptions that you're reading. Next, you're going to take each of those skills that you noted and think about all the times you've done something to exhibit that skill. So at first, you want to include literally everything you can think of from all kinds of experiences. So classes, jobs, internships, on-campus involvements, extracurricular involvements, volunteer work, anything. I didn't have room to include all of the skills from our example job posting, so I just listed the first few here. But you would do this for each skill that you highlight in the job posting of interest that you've found. And you'll be doing this exercise while keeping your cover letter in mind, but the same process can be used simultaneously for your resume and interviewing prep, like I've mentioned before. Just really want to drive that point home to you. So once you're done with that brainstorm and you've listed every skill and every experience that you can think of related to each of those skills, you have to make some choices about what you're going to include in the cover letter because you have limited space. So you only want to pick the highlights and the most related pieces of your education and experience to write about. So think about whether there are experiences that keep showing up in your brainstorm, and you can choose the ones that you think best relay your skills. So in this example, this person has one class that spans several of the skills from the job posting. So they were able to think of an example from this video production course is the example here for every single skill on the inventory that they're brainstorming about. So this would probably be a really good experience for them to use in the cover letter. All right. So you've narrowed down which job-related skills you want to include in your cover letter, and now you get to put everything together. So we're finally getting to the writing part. So when it comes to formatting a cover letter, some people create one file or document that they attach to their application. Or they could create a file that would include like cover letter on the first page, resume on the second page. So whatever you choose, your cover letter should just be less than a page of content. And that includes all of the contact information that goes at the top of a cover letter. And we'll talk about that. But it's usually broken out into 3 or 4 short paragraphs. And cover letters are traditionally written in a block letter format. And so this means the content is all left justified and there are spaces between the paragraphs. So this is an example of a very traditional looking cover letter here. However, sometimes you might choose to email your cover letter and attach your resume to that email. So this really only works if you're submitting your application via email, if you're applying through an applicant tracking system online, or if you've been asked to submit your resume through Google form or something like that. It's not going to work to have an email cover letter format. But if this is the way you're going to go, you're going to remove the street address information that goes at the top of a traditional cover letter. I'd also recommend filling in the subject line of an email with the job title, and if there is a job number, adding that as well. However, if the employer asks you to submit your information in a certain way, or to use a different subject line, whatever it is that they ask you to do, you want to follow their instructions. That is part of the application process, is to make sure that you're able to follow detailed instructions that they leave for you. Okay. So I've referred to this contact information, addresses, and all of that at the top of a cover letter. So if this is, if you're writing in that block format, you're going to include your address at the very top, followed by the date of the letter, and then you include the name, title, organization's name, and address. It's best if you can address the letter to an actual person, if you have that information. So that could be department head, an HR manager, it could be the recruiter that you've been working with, or some other contact that you might have within the company. You just want to do your best to find this. But if you can't, if that's okay, you can leave out that information and address the letter to the company. So then your salutation would be something like, to your hiring committee or to the Bear Paw media team, something along those lines. You just want to avoid things like dear sir or madam, or to whom it may concern, as those can be impersonal. I just also want to note this example is addressed to a Ms. James, which assumes that the writer is aware of the recipient's gender identity. And if that's unknown to you, you can use the first and last name of the person that you're writing to. So in this case, to Julie James, it would be an example of how to do that. So one of the ways to approach your cover letter content is to break the information into 3 to 4 short paragraphs. I'm going to outline the content that typically goes into each paragraph, but keep in mind that you don't necessarily have to include the information in the order that I'm presenting it. It's a great framework to get started, but some people like to have flexibility and are comfortable enough with their writing style to move that content around. So as long as you hit on the main points of each paragraph somewhere in the cover letter and the flow of information then makes sense in the way that you arrange it, you're okay to move things around. But traditionally, in that first paragraph, you're going to relay a few pieces of information. So first, you should indicate which position you're applying for and how you learned about it. So this is an opportunity to forge a personal connection. If someone referred you to the position, or if you met a recruiter at an event, let's say, that would be an opportunity to put their name and information about how they referred you to that position. You just want to be sure to ask your personal connections if you can mention their name during your hiring process before including them in the cover letter. You should also include a brief description of what interested you in the job. So what is it about this organization or this role that made you decide to apply? And this needs to be more personalized than something like, you have an excellent reputation. You really want to think about what genuinely attracts you to this role. This is part of the reason why you research the organization in that preparation stage. That research really helps you to better understand the organization and consider why you're interested enough to move forward with applying. So that covers the first paragraph. In the middle paragraph or paragraphs, you're going to overview your top qualifications. So for example, you might talk about your areas of study or a recent experience that's directly related to the skills requested in the position description. So this goes back to the research that we were talking about earlier, where you were looking at the position description and highlighting skills and thinking about your skills as they relate to those requests by the employer. This is the direct application of that exercise. Some people break out a second paragraph that outlines a select project that's relevant to the position description. So you're sort of going from a little bit more broad to specific in that second paragraph. Second middle paragraph, so the third paragraph, technically. So the example included here is a cover letter that's a position similar to the media production internship posting we looked at earlier. So you can see that this person writes about their academic work that's in progress. So they're saying they're studying media studies and video. And so they're talking about that work that's in progress. And then also some of the skills that they've developed through that program. So talking about some of the class projects that they've worked on. And this is where, when we were looking at that video production class that kept coming up for this student, this is the place that they're adding it into their cover letter. So towards the end of this paragraph, the writer is then referring the reader to their resume to get more details about that experience. And then finally, in the last paragraph, you're going to request action. So this is usually going to be a request for an interview. If there's something else that you're looking for, that would be a good place to include that as well. You include your contact information so that the hiring person can reach you, and then you thank them for their time. That's it. Last paragraph's easy. And then, so that's a paragraph approach, but if that doesn't work for you, there's another approach that you could potentially use. So this is called you, me, we. And in this approach, you include information about your prospective employer in the you section. So that's kind of that first paragraph. So you're addressing, here's why I'm applying to your company. Here's what I like about you. So again, the you section. Then there's the me section, where you write about yourself and your skills. So here's why you should hire me. And then finally, you write about we. So you're talking about how you could work well together. Here's what we could do with our forces combined. So that's another way to think about your cover letter. And it's up to you to decide which option is a better fit with the way you approach writing. So either the paragraphs or you, me, we. So once you have a draft, you need to do some proofreading and polishing. That's really important. You want to make sure that your cover letter is free of errors. I'd strongly recommend not relying solely on spell check because there are certain things that it doesn't catch. So read it forward, read it backwards, give it to someone else to read. Make sure that you're really double checking that. You should also put the focus on what you can provide to the employer. So you want to try to avoid writing about what you can gain. So for example, if you're saying, I'm applying because I want to get experience in this field, or I'm looking for a position with opportunities for growth, that puts the focus on what you're wanting to get out of the situation. So you can shift the emphasis to how you can help the organization. In terms of actual writing style, you want to try to switch up the way you begin each sentence. So your cover letter is going to be way more interesting to read if every sentence doesn't begin with, I did this, I did that. So very sentence structure. It's also advisable to create a cover letter that flows well from top to bottom. So each paragraph should focus on one theme, but all those themes should tie together to your main point, which usually goes back to you reiterating that you have the skills the organization needs. Additionally, transition statements that summarize one paragraph and lead into the next really help with creating a cover letter that makes sense to the reader, and makes that coherent argument about why you should move to the next stage of the hiring process. So all of these things help the cover letter to be interesting to read, and to allow the employer to understand the argument that you're making. Okay. So we've talked about several areas to get you ready to write high quality cover letters. To summarize everything we've talked about today, the next time you apply to a position, you're going to research the organization and the role. You're going to create an inventory of your related qualifications. Then you're going to draft that cover letter using either of the writing approaches that we discussed, and then you're going to edit your document. I'd also encourage you to ask a friend or family member to help you proofread, or you can contact the Career Development and Fieldwork Term Office to schedule an application material review appointment. That's something that we are always happy to do, and your career advisor can assist you in reviewing a completed cover letter or in helping you at whatever phase you're in within the writing process. I also want to mention that our office has a cover letter writing guide and some sample cover letters if you're interested in seeing some more examples beyond what we discussed today. So if you have further questions, here are all of the ways that you can access our office or schedule an appointment. So our location, in the barn, phone number, our email address, and then 2 ways of accessing Handshake to schedule an appointment, although you can schedule an appointment or request an appointment through all of those other methods. But if you want to do it in your own time, in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, I need to schedule an appointment with the career planning and development, or pardon me, with career development and fieldwork term, you can certainly do that on Handshake, either on the web browser version, bennington.joinhandshake.com, or there's a Handshake mobile app as well, that you can easily download and schedule appointments through there as well. So with that, I'll hand it back to John to wrap up.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca, for that great information and presentation. I really appreciate the example you provided and kind of going through the structure of the cover letter. I think that's great information to provide. And then also just wanted to reemphasize your point about doing your research about the organization and the role up front before you even get started writing the cover letter. It's really helpful to know your audience and kind of know what's going to resonate with them. So thank you again. And I just wanted to remind our viewers that the recording of today's presentation will be made available, and a link to the presentation will be sent to all students who registered for today's event. And then additionally, Rebecca, I know you covered this, but I just wanted to reinforce we have an array of helpful resources in all aspects of career development located in a few different areas, so you can access them from our office's Linktree page, also the resource library and Handshake, then also our office's intranet page as well. So so definitely take a look at, guidelines for resume writing, guidelines for cover letter writing. Those are two big ones. But as I mentioned, we have just a wealth of different resources and information in all different topics. Yeah, and then finally, I just wanted to mention your point about scheduling an appointment with a career advisor. We're here to help you however we can. Anything career development, fieldwork term, application material, interview, whatever it is, we're here to help. So don't be a stranger. Feel free to schedule an appointment via Handshake or email our office or call or stop by. And with that, I'd like to thank you again, Rebecca, and thank you all for attending today's event.
Thank you.